Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive where we're going to be tackling something that I'm sure a lot of you can relate to.
Yeah,
We're talking about mastering spoken English.
it's a big one.
It is a big one, and we're going to be looking at this YouTube video script called "Mastering English Speaking: Your Ultimate Guide."
Catchy.
Very catchy, and there are a lot of guides out there,
Oh, yeah, so many.
but this one I think has some really good stuff in it. So we're going to pull out the absolute best nuggets for you.
The best of the best.
Exactly. And, whether you are someone who wants to like nail a presentation at work, or you're going on a trip to an English-speaking country, or maybe you just want to like have the confidence to strike up a conversation with somebody,
Just in general.
this is the episode for you.
Absolutely.
And get this, the video actually says making mistakes is a good thing when learning to speak English.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, right?
Very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
I would love to hear you break that down for us a little bit later.
Yeah. Well, the video starts off really smart by acknowledging, all the challenges that we face when we're trying to, get to fluency in English. And it really like normalizes those feelings of just like, ugh, I'm never going to get this.
Yeah, like it's okay to feel that way.
Totally. And just saying that out loud is such a relief.
It is a relief, and I feel like they really kind of like got into our brains a little bit, because I know I've felt that way many times, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know that feeling when you just freeze up, you're afraid you're going to sound like a robot?
Oh, totally. Or worse.
Or worse.
You're going to make some horrible mistake and everyone's going to like run away.
Yeah, everyone's going to just like leave the room.
Exactly. And the video really like zones in on that fear
The fear.
of making mistakes,
Yeah,
which honestly can be totally paralyzing.
it can be. Yeah.
And it also digs into that lack of confidence
Uh,
that can kind of creep in, even when you like understand all the grammar, you've done all your lessons.
yeah, you know the rules.
You know the rules, but it's like you just can't speak. And then there's the pronunciation hurdles.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's be real. Some words just feel like they're designed to trip us up.
They do.
They're like tongue twisters.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, the video also acknowledges that like not everybody has this posse of native English speakers
Right.
to like practice with on a daily basis.
Ah, you don't necessarily have like a built-in practice buddy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I love that they don't shy away from these challenges.
Yeah.
But what I also love is that they dive right into some solutions.
Okay, solution. Yeah.
So let's tackle these one by one, starting with that fear of making mistakes.
Okay. Fear.
Yeah. Because I know that like that can be a huge block for me.
Absolutely.
What does the video say about kind of overcoming that? Because some days it just feels like my brain is like my own worst enemy.
Well, they have this really insightful approach. They kind of reframe mistakes
Okay.
as not failures, but feedback.
Oh,
Like little course corrections on your path to fluency. And they lean into this idea that like mistakes are actually how our brains learn best.
really?
Think about those aha moments that you have.
Yeah.
Oftentimes those come after you stumble a bit.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about like making the mistake and then learning from that mistake.
Exactly. It's like embracing those stumbles
Yeah.
as part of the process.
I love that. So it's kind of like instead of beating yourself up for every slip up,
Totally.
you're actually using it to your advantage,
Exactly.
which is very empowering.
It's super empowering.
So I'm curious to hear what the video says about confidence,
Yeah.
because it seems like that goes hand in hand with kind of letting go of that fear of making mistakes.
Absolutely. They emphasize that confidence really blossoms from competence.
Okay.
And competence comes from consistent practice.
Insistent practice.
They encourage us to think of it like building a muscle.
Okay, like lifting weights.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect to like bench press a ton on your first try.
Right.
You start small, you build strength gradually.
So baby steps are key.
Baby steps are key.
Got it. Yeah. And the video also talks about pronunciation, which, we all know can be such a confidence killer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I still struggle with some sounds, and I've been speaking English my whole life.
Right.
What are some of the techniques the video recommends for getting over those pronunciation hurdles?
Well, one that's really interesting is called shadowing.
Okay, I've heard of.
Have you?
Yeah.
So imagine you're like a detective's shadow,
Okay.
mimicking their every move.
Okay.
But instead of physical movements, you're copying a native speaker's pronunciation and rhythm.
Oh, so you're like their vocal shadow.
Exactly. You're their vocal shadow.
I like that.
And the science behind it is really cool because by mimicking, you're actually rewiring your brain
Wow.
to process and produce those sounds more naturally.
So you're building those neural
Yes,
pathways,
you're building those pathways.
making those sounds feel less foreign.
Exactly.
That's really cool. I like that analogy. Um, so what other pronunciation tips do they have? Because, let's be real.
Yeah.
Not all of us have like a, native English speaker following us around.
Right. That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
It would be, but it's not very practical.
No.
So what else can we do?
Well, this might sound a little strange, but the video encourages talking to yourself.
Okay.
It might feel a little silly at first.
I've done it.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's actually a brilliant way to just like get comfortable.
Yeah.
Forming those sentences without the pressure of an audience. You can experiment with different sounds. You can try new phrases and basically become your own pronunciation coach.
Yeah, it's less about sounding perfect and more about just getting those muscles moving,
Exactly.
both physically and mentally.
Totally.
I like that. And I noticed that the video also mentions focusing on phrases
Yes.
rather than individual words. Why is that so important?
It's all about sounding more natural and fluent.
Oh,
When
okay.
you learn phrases, you're thinking in like chunks of meaning. Rather than translating word by word in your head,
Right.
It's like imagine you're assembling a puzzle.
Okay.
It's much easier if you have like pre-assembled sections
Right.
than if you're trying to fit every single piece together individually.
Right. It's like you have the building blocks already made.
Exactly.
And then you're just kind of putting the building blocks together.
Exactly.
I like that. So it makes speaking less like a puzzle and more like, actually speaking.
Exactly.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. And I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Okay.
The video suggests thinking directly in English
Okay.
as much as possible.
As much as possible, yes.
I feel like for someone who's still learning, that can be like a really tall order.
It is, but think of it like this. When you're constantly translating back
Yeah.
and forth between English and your native language, it's like you're putting up a wall between you and fluent speech.
Interesting.
So thinking in English, even if it's just like short bursts at first,
Okay.
it helps you like break down that wall.
So it's like rewiring our brains to just process English in a more natural way.
Exactly.
I like that. So it's kind of like switching your phone's operating system to English.
Yes.
Like you're just immersing yourself in the language on a deeper level.
Well, you're immersing yourself. You're surrounded by it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And, while that might sound kind of daunting, I feel like the video does a good job of offering some like manageable steps
Right.
to make that happen.
Exactly.
So, for example, one thing they suggest is like describing your daily activities
Oh, yeah.
out loud in English.
In English, yeah.
So even if it's just like really simple stuff like
Yeah.
I'm brushing my teeth or I'm making dinner.
Totally. Or I'm walking the dog.
Exactly.
Just simple things.
So you're kind of like finding these little ways to integrate English into your everyday routine.
You're creating those little pockets of immersion.
Yes, exactly. I love that approach.
It's really effective.
I'm curious to know what other like practical tips the video suggests.
Well, another one is to immerse yourself in English media. So like watch movies, listen to podcasts, read books.
Oh, yeah.
All that good stuff.
Surround yourself with the language.
Exactly. The more you can surround yourself, the better.
So it's like you're kind of creating that constant exposure.
Yes.
Almost like you're living in an English-speaking environment,
Even if you're not.
even if you're not.
I love that approach. The video also talks about creating a safe space
Uh-huh.
for practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so crucial?
Well, think about it this way. When you feel safe and supported,
Yeah.
you're more likely to take risks and step outside of your comfort zone.
Right.
It's like learning to ride a bike if you're constantly worried about falling.
Uh-huh.
You'll never let go of the handlebars and experience the freedom of riding.
That's such a good analogy.
Thank you.
Because it's about like allowing ourselves to experiment, to make those mistakes,
Right.
to maybe sound a little silly
Yeah.
without feeling judged.
Exactly. Without judgment.
Because that's where the real learning happens. That's where the magic happens.
Exactly.
And they even suggest practicing with pets.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're fantastic listeners.
That's true. They don't judge you.
They offer unconditional love.
Yeah, and they won't correct your grammar.
Exactly.
So true.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, having that safe space to practice can really make all the difference.
Yeah, it's huge.
Now, the video also talks about building daily habits when it comes to speaking English.
Habits, yeah.
Like, how do we actually make this a part of our lives?
Right. It's one thing to like learn about it, but it's another thing to actually do it.
Exactly. So what are some of those practical tips that stood out to you?
Well, one that really resonated with me was the idea of like setting a fixed time each day
Okay.
for English practice, just like you would schedule a workout or a meeting.
Okay, like put it in your calendar.
Yeah, literally put it in your calendar and make it non-negotiable.
Okay, that happened.
And that helps build consistency.
Consistency, that's key.
It is. And another tip they suggest is describing your daily activities out loud in English.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that.
Like we were talking about before,
Yeah.
It's a great way to just keep your mind engaged.
It's like you're tricking yourself into learning.
You are. You're like, oh, I'm just making breakfast, but you're actually practicing.
You're practicing your English.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, are there any other, like, sneaky tricks like that?
Well, there's one that I think is pretty cool.
Okay.
Instead of like writing in a journal,
Yeah.
they recommend recording yourself speaking
Okay.
so you can actually hear how you sound
Oh, interesting.
and identify areas for improvement.
So it's like having your own personal speech coach.
It is. It's you.
But it's you.
It's you being your own coach.
That's awesome. I've heard of that technique before, and I think it's brilliant.
It's really effective.
Yeah, because sometimes we don't even realize how we sound until we actually hear it.
Totally. You're like, oh, wait, I do that.
Exactly. So switching gears a bit,
Okay.
the video talks about staying motivated.
Oh, motivation.
Yeah, because it's easy to get all excited.
Yeah, in the beginning.
Yeah, like, I'm going to learn English.
I'm going to be fluent.
Yeah, and then, like, life happens.
Life happens.
And, maybe you don't practice as much, and then you get discouraged.
Right. Motivation can be really tricky.
It can be. So how do we keep that momentum going when things get tough?
Well, the video really emphasizes setting clear, achievable goals
Okay.
and tracking your progress along the way.
So it's not just about, like, the end goal.
Right. It's not just about like, I want to be fluent.
Yeah,
Because that can feel really overwhelming.
you can. Yeah.
So break it down into smaller milestones.
Okay.
So for example, let's say your goal is to have a 5-minute conversation in English.
Okay.
That might sound kind of scary,
Yeah, a little bit.
but what if you focus on like mastering one new phrase each day
Okay.
or having a 1-minute conversation this week?
Okay, so you're, like, breaking it down into these smaller chunks.
Exactly. And suddenly that bigger goal feels a lot more attainable.
It's like climbing a mountain.
I love that analogy.
You're not just going to, like, look at the summit and start climbing.
Right.
You got to, like, plan your route.
Base camp.
Base camp, exactly. And, like, celebrate reaching each base camp.
Celebrate those little victories.
It's about acknowledging those small victories.
Yeah.
And using them as fuel to keep going.
Exactly.
I love that. What else does the video say about keeping that fire lit?
Well, they also talk about celebrating your wins,
Okay.
no matter how small they seem.
Okay.
So did you nail that tricky pronunciation?
Yeah.
Did you understand a whole paragraph without having to look up a word?
Like a little victory.
Give yourself a high five.
I love that.
Those small wins add up,
They do.
and they really help you stay motivated when things get tough.
It's so easy to get caught up in what we haven't accomplished yet.
Oh, yeah, we're really good at that.
But it's those little moments of, like, yes, I did it,
Yes.
that really keep us going.
Totally.
Speaking of keeping things interesting,
Okay.
the video also talks about connecting learning to your personal interests.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
So how does that factor into the whole motivation equation?
Well, think about what you love to do in your free time.
Okay.
Do you love music,
Yeah.
movies, cooking?
All the above.
Whatever it is, there's a way to integrate English learning into those activities.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, for example, if you're a music lover,
Yeah.
try listening to English songs
Okay.
and focus on understanding the lyrics.
Oh, I like that.
Or if you're a movie buff,
Yeah.
watch English films with subtitles
Okay.
and pay attention to the dialogue.
So you're kind of like getting the best of both worlds.
You are.
You're enjoying something you love and you're learning at the same time.
You're turning something you enjoy into a learning opportunity.
That's brilliant.
It makes the whole process more fun.
Less like a chore.
Exactly. Less like homework.
I love that. Are there any other ways the video suggests that we can, like, personalize our learning?
Well, they also encourage us to think about what we want to be able to do with English.
Oh, okay.
So do you want to travel? Do you want to give a presentation?
Yeah,
Make new friends?
those are all great goals.
Whatever it is, let that be your guiding light.
Okay.
It's much easier to stay motivated when you have a clear purpose in mind.
So it's about connecting our learning to our real life goals,
Exactly.
our aspirations.
Totally.
I like that it's not just about, like, learning grammar rules and vocabulary.
Right.
It's about, like, I'm learning this so I can actually go out and do the things I love to do.
You're empowering yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Now we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We've explored those common challenges of speaking English.
Yeah.
We uncovered some fantastic techniques
Lots of techniques.
for improvement, and we learned about the importance of building those consistent habits
Yes. Consistency.
and staying motivated.
It all comes down to motivation.
It does. I feel like my brain is bursting with new ideas.
Mine too.
What about you? What's resonating with you the most from this deep dive so far?
What's really resonating with me is just this focus on making learning both effective and enjoyable.
Okay.
It's not about forcing ourselves to study for hours on end.
Right.
It's about finding those small, sustainable ways to integrate English into our daily lives.
Yes, make it a part of who you are.
Exactly, and making it feel less like work and more like play.
I love that, finding that sweet spot
That sweet spot.
where learning just becomes like a natural extension of who we are and what we love.
Exactly.
Now, before we wrap things up, the video focuses primarily on individual learning,
Mm-hmm.
but it got me thinking, what role does community play in all of this? I mean, sure, we can practice on our own, but isn't there something powerful about connecting with other learners and
Totally.
sharing experiences and like motivating each other?
Yeah, that's such a good point. The video doesn't really delve into that aspect of it,
Right.
but it's such a crucial one because think about it, language is inherently social.
Yeah.
We use it to connect, to share ideas, to build relationships.
Absolutely.
So surrounding yourself with the community of other English learners
Yeah.
can be so motivating and so enriching.
It's like having that support system.
Yeah,
People who get it.
they get it.
They understand the struggles.
The struggles and the victories.
And they celebrate those victories with you.
Absolutely.
Plus, it gives you those opportunities for like real life practice.
Yeah, real world practice.
Which is invaluable.
Yeah.
Have you found that community has played a role in your own language learning journey?
Oh, absolutely. I've learned so much from connecting with other language enthusiasts,
Yeah.
whether it's through online forums or language exchange partners or even just casual conversations with people
Yeah.
who are also learning English.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much you can learn from each other.
Yeah. And it just makes it more fun.
Way more fun. It's like you're all in it together.
Yeah, exactly. And,
Yeah.
it's not just about finding a community. It's about creating one as well.
Yep.
Maybe that means starting a conversation group with your friends or joining an online forum or even just like striking up a conversation with someone new.
In English.
In English.
Exactly. Just put yourself out there.
Even those small interactions can make a big difference.
They can.
And you never know. You might inspire someone else to start their English learning journey.
You might be that spark.
Exactly.
Ah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the message is clear. Mastering spoken English isn't just about, memorizing grammar rules or practicing pronunciation.
Right. It's bigger than that.
It's about embracing the journey, connecting with others, and most importantly, having fun along the way.
It should be fun.
It should be. And remember those mistakes.
Yes.
They're not failures.
No.
They're stepping stones to fluency.
Love it. And if you're ever feeling stuck or discouraged, just remember you're not alone.
You're not alone.
There's a whole world of resources and communities out there.
Yeah, ready to support you.
Ready to support you.
So what are you waiting for? Dive in, embrace the challenge, and remember to have fun along the way. We'd love to hear about your experiences.
Here with us.
Share your thoughts, your tips, your triumphs in the comments below. And until next time,
Happy learning.
happy learning, everyone.